Hi, guys. Welcome to the Marketing Rizz podcast. I am your host, Crispino, and today we have with us Natanya. Natanya is the founder of New Solutions Network, where she works with a great team to harness the power of behavioral science for your brand to make a meaningful impact. She is also the host of a podcast called as the Natanya Experience. So, welcome to the show, Natanya. It is great to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Crispina.
Thank you for joining us early in the morning, Natanya. It's lovely seeing your face and your bright smile. And I even got out my Easter shirt for you. So, Natanya, your profile, to start off with, your profile, your LinkedIn profile says right at the top, Natanya back from the dead into three. So, what is that about? I'd like to know the story behind that.
Okay, very fair. I'm recovering from a recent dance with gravity where I lost because I fell off a large stage onto concrete and had an experience that I've had
Mm,
before um, in my life. And so I've had several clinical near death experiences and other experiences that were very similar, although they weren't clinical deaths, where I had a
mm-hmm,
concussion, head injury, or even deep meditative experience. And you kind of honestly all go to the same place. So, where you leave yourself and your physical body and you start to have a different experience of time in the world. Yeah, we're going there because you said you wanted
wow.
to start. So, that's what that's about. But
Yeah.
also, it's a time to recalibrate. And I just wrote about this for
Mm,
a fast company in terms of like how that fits into the business world and leadership, right? What does that even
mm,
mean? Like, is it a personal experience? Yes, but where I am a person doing business. So they're all always enmeshed. I do work with a lot of colorful, interesting characters, and a lot of them in the entertainment world rename themselves. And the name that they go by and introduce themselves isn't the name that's maybe on a birth certificate. So while I was
mm,
having some contemplative time because I was very injured and in a neck brace and in body situations of hitting concrete from high up, I had some time to, and the brain is healing and swelling and doing different stuff. I was like, I feel like I'm a different person and I want to rename myself. And my husband actually was like, that's not very professional. And I was like, I don't care anymore about
yeah.
that. So there's no letters after my name or anything like that. It's about what I'm existing today as, which is someone who's had to re-examine their life. What is reality? What is up? What is down? Multiple times, at least clinically three. And
Mm.
probably more. And that's who I am right now. And that's what I'm offering to show up as for the world. So
Love
that's
it,
what the
love it.
name.
So, love it, Natanya. So, to start off with, how is your health doing now? How are you now? Are you like completely
I
recovered
mean,
from the
I'm doing well, but I'm not the same person. I have some
Mm,
functional changes in how I can
mm,
work, which is another thing I had to reconcile with. For example, I had a pretty well documented eidetic memory, meaning I could remember things I saw,
mm,
experienced without having to review, which is why I did a lot of different kinds of, schooling and jobs and things like that because I would be exposed, absorb it, understand,
mm,
and keep going. Which some people, unless they understand that ability, think it's very strange to observe because, or even being able to like play instruments and do things, not proficient
mm,
like I'm going to the Olympics, but a base
yeah,
understanding of something very quickly. Now
mm,
I have a lot of memory issues still, and even very simple things like basic arithmetic, especially if it's mental or toggling between screens and things like that. So
mm,
I'm definitely not able to work the way I was, although things are getting quite better. And believe it or
mm,
not, I had trouble talking, expressing. I was very locked in the
yeah,
mind early on. Some things would flow naturally. Like I could have a conversation and seem like nothing's wrong with me. But then you say, was your
mm,
mother born? And I was like, and I know that, but I couldn't get it
mm,
out. Or I would just have moments where I would be like really fluid and then be like, the table. The other thing was
mm,
I have spoken multiple languages and having conflation and confusion in what is my voice, where is my accent that usually comes out when I'm tired or
mm,
affected was like a lot of things like that. So like who am I? How do I speak? Am I a fake person because I put on this presenter voice and beautiful English or what? And I noticed that traveling to Antarctica against medical advice at the end of the year while I still was wearing the neck brace and an arm brace and my physical body, the doctors were like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, yeah, I know. So I'm going to Antarctica with all my favorite scientists at the end of the world and I'm going to go heal myself. And they were like, what? I really like would toggle through one of the languages that I was quite fluent in for a long time and lived in South America and have family there and a lot of different work things there was Spanish. And I was
mm,
basically speaking like, yo, whatever, right? On the way from since the
mm,
accident. And then my travel companion, who happens to be the CEO of a medical technology company that is one of the things that help my brain, which we'll talk about maybe later, because I recommend everyone get their brain a little rejiggered and their vagus nerve stimulated to, especially all the CEOs and founders on your podcast with stress to kind of get you neutralized, right? It also helps
mm,
release and unlock the language capacity that was a little bit fried up from the accident. So we were
mm,
traveling and we landed in Buenos Aires, and quite she described this, that essentially she's like, it was like a switch, and all of a sudden Natanya went from this like choppy Spanish to, yo puedo hablar solamente en español, like super bien, like it was just like it just like came back. And so I've been
mm.
finding like certain skills, abilities, if you will, that were a little bit jumbled up for the last few months are coming back like that. Amazing. Others not
Love
so
it.
much, but then other things have
Yeah.
shifted. And I say all this to say, what does that have to do with anyone listening? Well, how many of you have tried something or felt like you were really good at something or had some skills that really served you at some part of your life? Maybe that skill was never asking for help or needing a break or taking a nap. Maybe that skill was like insert thing that was like your superpower, maybe through university or graduate school or first jobs or first startup.
Mm,
But then something in your life happens and you can't rely on those skills anymore, or they're not available to you, or actually using that framework of who you are and how you function is actually a detriment to get you to your
mm,
next place. And so that's what I, at the ripe old age of 50, almost 51, have to relearn and give myself permission to be okay
mm.
with. And that's kind of like where we're at. And yeah, AI and all that stuff too.
Love it, Mr. You're such an inspiration. I love that. And look at you. You're killing it now. I wish you the best. I hope your progress goes much better and you're able to get all your skills back and more, and you're able to
And
crush it.
whatever it is, I mean, that's the thing. I wake up and I'm like, "Thank you. Today's a good day." That's it.
Yeah.
Start there. Start
Love it.
there. I'm here. My body works. Not everything feels
That's
great
the
all the
most
time.
important thing.
It's terrible. I don't want anyone to have to go through. And this last
Mm,
injury was actually not even my most severe at all.
mm,
It just sort of woke me up the hardest because of I was about to go forward on this stage and
mm,
talk about a bigger accident and death experience where I was declared paralyzed and was in bed for a year to relearn to walk, became obese from that experience. Well, that's a whole other thing, like a lot of medical stuff that I already went through, built my body
mm,
back, my mind, how I look without a lot of, surgery, although whatever you want to do for yourself is great. I'm just saying I kind of muscled my way through to rebuild myself. And the stage I fell off of was a former, well, partner, like a large scale
mm,
financial strategic partner for our company. And I had brought a crew. There was a film crew. This is all on video. And my own spokesperson. It was a products company in the wellness industry, right? And we're a
yeah.
wellness company, right? I fell off their stage that was supposed to have railings, and they pretty much left me for dead, right? So they lawyered up that we're a family, we're praying for you, blah, blah, blah. You get home from all that, you get out of the hospitals, you go to other hospitals because the ones there didn't even find things like my broken arm because I was annoying and not crying. I'm like, they gave me so much drugs. I was like, I don't know who I was for a few days. And then
Mm,
when I went on the plane, my arm swelled and I had to realize like I had even more injuries that weren't discovered, which is fine. I'm like, which is fine, body, whatever. But just saying that it was horrible. Like basically, not just I fell down, changed, had to rediscover who I am, what I want, but also my business fell down. Like my
mm,
entire plan for, a strategic partnership and a table leg of our business was
mm,
then destroyed. And it felt like a kind of a betrayal. So like you're a grown up and you're like, I have
mm,
friends and I don't need those people. But you also like what? But also wasn't it a lesson? Because I was literally stopped from announcing on video
mm,
this partnership. I fell
mm.
off. I never got to say. So the
Yeah.
partnership dissolved quietly, unfortunately, but it also showed me what we might have been entrenched with, and it wasn't a fit. And I wish them no
Mm,
ill will, but I will say they did decide to, hide behind lawyers and say you can sue us if you want, but otherwise go, you can eat dirt basically. And that
mm,
was hard. That was hard to accept. They went on to celebrate their expansion into other markets and, $100 million gross or whatever. And I didn't even have,
mm,
a card from. So, from a CEO who said to like my family and team to their faces, like we've got you, we're here for you. No,
Mm.
it's 2 clicks on a keyboard to send a settlement claim. Now I have to
Yeah.
go through and have a part-time job and prove what I'm doing. And I'm like, it's on video. There's hospital, like, leave me alone. Like, okay, fine. So it's important because everyone's like, you're not suing. I'm like, no, because I started to
Mm.
feel, and of course, lawyers approached me, and this is public. And, when you're a semi public private person, like, there's a lot of people who
Mm.
were like, we should do this, and this is multi millions, and whatever. And I had to cancel all of my work, all my speaking engagements, all of my paid effort. I had to let go staff. We had to shut down studios. Like, this was a huge setback. Huge, huge. And all I felt
Mm.
like was an idiot, that I trusted the wrong people, that I misunderstood the situation, that I shouldn't have seen the warning signs. Like, it is failure with a capital F in the classic way. And it hurt like hell
Mm. Sure. Yeah.
to come back from that, the pain. That I am kind of different in that, a lot of people overhype their accidents and injuries, and I would try to act like everything was fine, especially in front of
Mm.
my children, who I amazingly miracle. They were in camp and didn't I could hide for over a month to kind of try and get a base of recovery before I was like
Mm.
scary in front of them.
Yeah.
But I would, like, take my collar off for a little bit and just hold my body, like, really tight and just be like, "Yeah, I'm good." And then they leave and I'm like, "Oh my god," or, like, in front of people, or the first times I tried to, like, go out and do something, and then I'd have to, rest for, like, a long time and hide. And I didn't want the world or anyone to, you don't want to lose investor and partner confidence. You don't want people to think you're damaged. Like, there's a lot of psychological layers of even
Mm.
owning your
Absolutely.
your time, whether it's mental health, physical health, or you're caring for a loved one, or emotional challenges, so that you have to always be on your A game when you're a founder. And so that was layered into it as well. So, yeah.
So, how did New Solutions Network come into being? What's like? How did that
So New Solutions
come
has
about and
been
when?
around for quite a bit of time. Originally was New
Mm.
Solutions Factory, and it grew into the network over time based on the
Mm.
fact that, I have a lot of friends and did a
Mm.
lot of
It's good
things.
to have
And we
friends.
started to be
Yeah.
like, wait, your thing goes with my thing, and my thing goes with your thing. And then,
Yeah.
oh, you like these guys, and these guys like those guys. And, those things goes with those things. And then we
Snowballs.
started
Yeah.
to, yeah, like, realize that we could help. It happened sort of organically,
Mm.
just seeing, like, this is chocolate, this is peanut butter, that goes together. This is coconut, this is milk. Let's make that. And
Love it.
also having some guidelines around
Mm.
who and why and how we work, how we handle data, how we
Mm.
handle people's secrets because we collect them,
Mm.
how we handle people's desires and dreams and what they want to
Mm.
do, and how we handle the use of science and technology to help guide people into, their best self. But it could be also consuming or purchasing something or participating in something, as well as how we use technology in our daily life. So we have some, you know, rules of play, if you will, to be in the network, rules of
Mm.
engagement in terms of what we all agree on in terms of how we'll handle those kinds of things, which means we also had some breakups with partners along the way who may or may not have the same alignment on that. And that's difficult. And I will say this is kind of slang, but this is what I really came to encourage people to think about, which is all money is not good money, and that you
Fair
don't need to
enough.
be suspicious of who shows up, but that everything you think you know may
Mm.
not be what you know. I myself have had a very colorful background, as you can see. Some of it overlaps with different organizations, some of them being with different governments. And there's just things that you think you know, but you don't. Your public persona is one slice of what you have out
Mm.
there. And so when you're working with people or organizations or as founders, and when you're starting out and you're really hungry and you just want someone to support you, it's a scarcity
Mm.
mindset, right? And that scarcity mindset might make you overlook, or not even consciously have some blinders to what you want as the way forward. So I say, don't just look at one indicator, look at a lot of other indicators around you. Like, who are the other brands, companies, tools, whatever how big the pool is that we're talking about, if it's an individual,
Mm.
small founder, or if it's like a team, right? How are
Yeah.
they moving through the world? Who are they working with? Who are they standing and sitting near? And that's usually a sign of, like, what's going on. But
Mm.
I admit I felt very silly that I misread that partnership and really thought that we were going to do all this business together. But it's not the first time that happened to me. I've had, lots of endeavors where we were not paid, for example, and people claim bankruptcy, but then would post pictures of themselves, skiing with $200 bottles of wine. but other, so you have to just check and recheck yourself and then surround yourself with
Mm,
people kind of like, you've heard, I hope your audience knows like what the privy council is in the, in the royal courts, the like
mm,
advisory council, the cabinet, if you will, of people who don't always agree with everything you say. So you need people who are going to push on you a little bit or reel you in a little
mm,
bit, and that you trust that their interest and their intention is for the good of whatever the group is trying to achieve. That's hard. Out of That's like leadership through and putting yourself with your teams versus
yeah.
leadership as authoritarian. I'm the leader, founder, CEO, whatever you are, and you all do what I say and then help me do what I
Mm,
want to do. So the leadership style, I think, changes also when you get old, where you're not trying to just prove that you are equipped or qualified, which
mm.
is something that a lot of people struggle with in the beginning.
So I'd like to ask you, Natanya, if there's a founder who has a brand, say, who has a company who's doing business and is looking out for a co-founder, what are some of the things you should look out for when selecting a co-founder?
Well, I was gonna do something cheesy and be like, you should take one of our assessments and see how you guys match up. I'm just kidding. But we do, and we're in talks with a company that I really admire and respect, who's
Mm,
been for, I believe, over 30 years, working on helping people find their matches. And that is within themselves and within like teams.
mm,
And really, there's a lot of tools out there that can help with that. But I would say lean into stripping down what you
mm,
think you know about yourself and the other person, and maybe go through an exercise. In the olden days, like whether it's for kids or adults, like team building and the trust
mm,
falls and go spend the night in the woods together. I don't mean that, but what I do mean
yeah.
is the idea of outside of the bullet points on a resume or
Mm,
tech skills on an assessment, you have to figure out if the person has a rhythm that aligns with you, if their
yeah.
communication style and your receiver style are complementary, so that you can have the most harmonious, even in a bumpy, wavy storm, synergy and alignment that underneath, even if someone says something that might be a little off or everyone has a bad day or what have you, you kind of know where you stand with them at all times and where you're
Mm.
going. I would say don't take that lightly. That's actually more important than the skills that you bring together.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
like a
where
marriage.
you what you want. It really is an interdependent relationship, and it's like a marriage if a marriage was always built on true egalitarian partnership, which, not all are,
Absolutely.
but, like, in the ideal state, yes, it is like an ideal marriage.
Yes. So, what's your take on marketing, Natanya? Like, there's so much happening in marketing around AI, and you see a new tool pop up every now and then, and a new technique, or there are new gurus coming up. So, what's your take on marketing in 2026?
Yeah. So, okay. I think there's some interesting stuff that's not a shock, but coming out a lot right now out of Google and some of the groups that I'm in around what the LLMs are doing with our sense of writing and communication style.
Mm,
So, when you
yeah.
say marketing, I'm going to gestalt similar or put it into the idea of marketing is talking to your customers and them wanting to talk back with you by being engaged with you in some way, purchasing, right? So,
Yeah.
I say that I start with the talking because that's my zone, obviously, but meaning the voice, right? That
Mm,
because people are using AI to write so much of their marketing strategy and actual content, it is
yeah.
literally sounding like a sea of sameness everywhere. And you can almost really viscerally feel. But then
Mm,
even human beings are taking that language and mimicking it with their own writing to those construct and those like sentence constructs, like it's not this, it's that, blah 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 blah, beam beam beam. Like we're all writing sonnets in the
mm,
olden days with the same iambic pentameter, like the same pattern and beat all the time to the same end
yeah.
boot. And then, by the way, here's my thing, like and subscribe. And it's almost like
Yeah.
we've become cartoon versions of people. So I think what we've forgotten is that human beings are messy. Human
Yeah.
beings are many things. Human behavior is not a solid predictive model where there's no margin of error or contradiction within it. People do things against
Mm,
their best interests, knowingly and unknowingly. There are doctors who smoke and are obese. There are athletes who do drugs and doctors, right? There are like, meaning all of us are many, many
mm,
things. I feel like what we do is we get flattened with AI and we become one or two dimensional, and the marketing feels that way.
mm.
Now, if
I
you're
agree with you
selling
on that. Yeah.
something with utility, right? Really functional utility, like you're selling something in a securities platform, let's just say,
Mm.
or you're doing, rather than something more experiential like a game, I'm trying to make this broad,
Yeah.
right? But with specificity, let's just say table stakes for those worlds and those
Mm.
customers. So in some places, if you're in financial services or cybersecurity or things like that, there's sort of like you need to hit these certain marks for credibility, trust, accountability, and frameworks of like the box of like, we have this, we have this. Absolutely.
Mm.
But marketing and just focusing on this is my funnel and this is my thing. I mean, everything that you do, there is a guide
Mm.
for that. We were talking about this before we officially started. I'm like, well, I could talk about those things, but 6 weeks from now, the algorithms are going to
Yeah.
shift and I would have to change my rules anyway. And so I would
Mm.
say, you need essentially to become anthropologists, and you become anthropologists and you keep your eyes and ears open for the changes in behavior of the people and the marketing and the tools and that intersect between the three. And you know that everything you're doing in 3 months might evolve and you're not scared of it. You just move with it. And that's what I think it is. We used to plan out a 5-year marketing plans. Now we plan out 90-day cycles.
Even
We
lesser
still
maybe at times. Yeah.
5-year plan, but it's constantly evolving because
Yeah.
the workforce is evolving. The customer buying cycle is evolving. The way money flows is evolving. The way ROI is evolving. I mean, yes, anybody could make a pitch deck and make financials that seem amazing, but I don't even believe any of those. And I don't think most venture people do either. We have people making
Mm.
deals and we see the headlines and people see that and they're like, and you see these crazy acquisitions or launches of 30, $40 million with no understanding or more of how there's going to use that or if there's even viability just because it was the first one or the cool one that said that and got some people to get zhuzhed up about the idea. But in actuality, the market decides. And the market right now is in flux.
Yeah.
So I feel like don't forget about humans in the loop. It's the same thing. I mean, I'm sort of getting a little more open about some of the whistleblowing I did around AI ethics when I started to realize I was really deeply in systems that I didn't personally align to. And within that, I would say where things break down is where we forget to have humans in the loop. And that really doesn't matter to me if it's healthcare or cybersecurity or, online music lessons for kids. Like it really doesn't matter. In your marketing, be the customer. What does this feel like to me? Test it
Yeah.
out with your friends who have nothing to know, especially people who don't even know what your business is. If you can't do, in market primary and secondary research, right? Not everyone has the budget for that. But that's what's missing. And I think people are looking for that. If you look at Instagram or TikTok, you look at where the feeds, you started to notice that the feeds started to get more and more dominated with AI generated
Yes.
stuff. And as AI
Slop.
tools for
AI
generating
slop.
things, right? And
Yeah.
now it is the point where, quite frankly, it's very difficult to tell. In fact, there's whole Reddits and LinkedIn groups and all this stuff just to even tell out of the best, newest tools, how do you know that it's not
Mm.
authentic? And
Yeah.
then you have the problem of layering, just like what Hollywood's dealing with is, do we even need actors anymore if we can render
Yeah.
a screen and a person to do this and seem like the Crispino avatar is Crispino? Deepak made his own avatar. I have mixed feelings about that. Yeah, I said it because I understand why you want to scale the feeling of the relationship. But
Mm.
I think we start to lose what is the point of having a physical body in this time? And maybe I'm tied to that more because of what I experienced. But
Mm.
I don't really want to pretend to have answers to anything. I'm just going to tell you my experiences and how we've leaned into what feels good, what feels right. Who can I lean on for support? Who's ahead of me and who's behind me that I can pull along? And when you do that, other things just clicked into play. And you have subject matter experts on the financials, on the technology and the tech schemas and the things that you need. Of course, you still need due diligence, of course. But I
Yeah.
think worrying about chasing the trend, you're always going to miss it because the minute you actually can implement, the trend's going to shift. So it's not
Something new
about
is gonna
that.
come up.
And it is like a delicate yin yang thing, right? You can't ignore it, but you can't
Yeah.
twist yourself in a pretzel to be the optimizing. And I love the fact that a lot of people, especially like I noticed, LinkedIn is the only social media that I'm personally like on. I have the other
Mm.
socials. They help put out the content. I have mixed feelings about that. But I know
Mm.
that's a way to connect with a lot of people. Um,
Yeah.
but, really believing in what you're saying about your brand or company and what it feels like, that's going to be
Yeah.
good marketing. I want to believe that, but it doesn't always sound cool to say it that way.
But I think one good use of LinkedIn AI, what I've seen is there's a lot of personal branding happening on LinkedIn. Like founders are now focusing on personal branding, through which I've had many guests on my show who've paid like thousands of dollars through LinkedIn. So that's something that's really helpful. So I'd like to understand your take on that. You have about 10K plus followers on LinkedIn plus 10K plus subscribers on YouTube. So what's your take on building a personal brand
I'm like, I
and
don't
how?
even know. Yeah, because we have, I have like 10 brands under me. So like I don't pay attention
Yeah,
to any of that really personally. For clients, it's different. I'm one of those
yeah,
people who's not supposed to be a public figure. I was supposed to be quiet and stay away after my exit.
yeah.
And I've started to be like, well, if I'm not naming names or saying anything about the things I can't talk about, why can't I come out and say, well, this is what I want to do, especially since I started back in the
Mm,
nonprofit world and in advocacy and just saying there are people hurting and we need to tell their story. And so I wasn't following any guides of personal branding, whatever. I probably did it all wrong. I got in a lot of trouble at the first things I
mm,
said with lawyers, like, you can't talk about this, you can't say that, you can't do this. I was like, oops, sorry.
mm,
So I think people want to put out this perfect, polished version of themselves.
yeah.
Against my personal opinion, I would say that's going to go somewhere, but not really far. The point to me is that because we're dealing with the AI generated everything,
Yeah.
companions, strategies, head of creative, it's an
Mm,
LLM. Okay. That why people want to know who a founder is literally to show them who you are. Now, if you're a business owner, we don't have to know that you like were a bully in the third grade or you yelled at this person last week, and nobody's a saint here and nobody's trying to, however, so within the confines of what makes sense for LinkedIn, showing that you are a real person is where I think those kinds of personal brands actually
I
make
can't believe
people.
you're actually I can't believe you're actually saying that in 2026 that you have to come on LinkedIn to show that you're a real person. I mean, 1 year ago, this wasn't even a conversation. 1 year ago, it was just like you need to have personal branding. But now it is you need to have a personal branding and be present so that people know you're a real person. It's crazy.
I mean, honestly, we have 3D printers. We have AI agents. No offense, nothing you or I make. I mean, my whole team would be like, Natanya, don't say that. But I don't think it's that special. It can be made by somebody else or copied.
Yeah,
Everything is that, right?
absolutely.
So what's ownable? Your why,
Mm,
why people should invest or trust or try or want to help you and
mm,
your company efforts, people, teams, mission, and mean it. And what are you going to do if they help you? What are you going to do with their money? What are you going to go do with their interest, with their volume, with their endorsement? I know it's really
yeah,
baby stuff, but honestly, people forget this stuff and they skip ahead and they miss the point. That doesn't mean you're not going to see a spike, but it's not
mm,
sustainable. I look at it as I heard a talk by a woman named Sue Bird. She is quite an incredible human being about women's basketball in America and women's basketball franchise, WNBA, compared to the NBA. In terms of scale, it's a lot smaller, right? But
mhm,
their stadiums are always full, their games, their fans. So they have a much smaller pool, but they have much deeper entrenchment, engagement, and relationship with their fans. And their fans per
mm,
dollar spend a lot more, right? And so even the concept of less is more, and I'm oversimplifying this, but just saying, I have not put a dollar against any advertising. There's no boosted ads. I'm not using Navigator.
yeah. This is all
What we're
organic.
doing Right. What we're doing with media and we're putting it in the public is important, but that's
Mm,
not how we're trying to actually gain revenue. And we're not doing it for performance or to
yeah.
hack an algorithm. We're actually taking those stories and creating data sets out of them about human behavior. And we're trying to get lots of different kinds of truths. So,
Mm,
soldiers, athletes, formerly incarcerated individuals, people of, you know, ABCD or first gen, you know what I'm saying, right? Different
mm,
culture boxes, right? And I don't want to name different ethnicities, but to say immigrant,
mm,
Asian, people of
mm,
color, and because the what you do is much more
mm,
based on your culture box and identity than the facts of information about what a product is. The same product with the same description set to two people that have some sense of similar profile, like a beauty product for women in their 40s, could be completely different who's going to buy it if you don't look about like, well, how do you feel about your skin and what do you even care about is beauty and like that kind of stuff. So I'm just picking that
mm,
as an example. That's why I'm saying the human part is the part we can't
mm.
forget. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
you don't learn and understand the algorithms, the mechanisms of action, But I will say that that is public facing. For us, for example,
Mm.
at New Solutions, our work is really with organizations and institutions where our content lives within their world. We're just
Mm.
trying to make sure we have enough people to test it in real time in market, right? Do they resonate with it? And or encourage people, because we do get a lot of people who say, I have a story that I want to tell.
So, Natanya, what's your take on founders who make decisions based on a hunch or based on what's cool,
Those
opposing
are two
to
different
based on
things. A
decisions
hunch,
on
the
data?
hunch, I love the hunch
Yeah.
word. Hunch, can I replace it with, or do you mean like intuition, right? That gut feeling?
Not a gut feeling, more like a trend, more like something that seems cool right now,
All right, so those are two
opposing
different things.
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
not
something
a
that
hunch.
feels cool. Okay, not a hunch. Okay, because those are different. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think what I've been
And
leading
not
up to.
analyzing data. And not analyzing data. So they just make a decision based on something that's cool or something that's trendy or something they feel will work out, but without
But
analyzing
to me,
data.
those are different things. Cool or trendy, or that they feel will work out. The reason I'm breaking down your language is, to me, those are two different things.
Hmm.
So a hunch and something they feel will work out is actually something I would say lean into that feeling first. Don't just do it. Versus something that's cool or
Yeah.
trendy, say, I mean, obviously be careful, right?
And
Maybe pilot.
where would data come in?
Comes in both, but it also depends on what is the lens and where you're getting that data from and who created that data and what are they doing. And if you want to be a disruptor, sometimes you're going to have to use a mix of alchemy and
Hmm.
science. You're going to have to feel like,
Fair enough.
well, these things are true for what
Hmm.
I can prove and observe in the universe in terms of customer purchase data trends, if you will, and or
Hmm.
algorithmic trends on marketing automation to these kinds of groups. I don't know, open rate, whatever that's. Of course, those are sort of your block and tackle. I was saying those are the building blocks. You should always kind of assess that. You need to, in military operations, whatever it is, you have to assess your environment first. But then I want to
Hmm.
separate from the I have a feeling, I have a hunch. I would always say, think about
Yeah.
it. Make sure you're in a calm state. Assess your own state. Are you acting from fear? Are you acting
Hmm.
from envy? Are you acting from imposter syndrome and trying to
Hmm.
overcompensate? Are you pressure? Are you exhausted?
Hmm.
So if you're balanced and you still feel like, I want to try this, the data says this could work, but I don't know. Or this
Hmm.
is where it's going, but I think it's going here. That's what science is. That's what marketing breakthrough is. If the path is perfectly laid out, guess what? So what? Especially if you're not necessarily executing underneath some existing infrastructure. If you're a founder and you're making your unique path, you're going to have to do some things that aren't by the book. That doesn't mean you throw out all the books. And so it's not so simple. I'm sorry, but I think it's a blend.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Totally. So, Natanya, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. But before I let you go, I have a couple of quick questions for you. So, where do you see marketing heading in the next 5 years with all these layers of AI, big data? Where do you think marketing is going to be like in 5 years?
That's a big question. I want to give you a real answer. Most jobs that can be automated, like, I'm going with this. There's already shifts in the workforce, right? So, what
Mm.
that means in terms of like the skills, the talent, the mindset, the people, and then what they execute is obviously also going to shift. And I
Mm.
think some stuff that we thought was really complicated is going to be table stakes. And
Mm.
then the real wheat from the shaft, the real differentiators are going to be people who use marketing in ways that make people actually feel things again. If you're utility, give it to me clean, give it to me straight. Who are you? What do you want from me? Let's go. If you want me to change who I am, why? What am I going to get? What's this going to do? I want to
Mhm.
believe it, who you are and why you're telling me this. That sounds,
Mm.
again, really, really simple. But if you look in your inbox today, if you look at your LinkedIn, I mean, I got a lot of, I have a lot of requests that we don't accept because I'm like, this is not a human, or this is clearly like a formulaic thing. And that's fine, but I don't respond to those. So when you say like, oh, you have 11,000, whatever, I'm like, yeah, but like I could have 50. I don't care. Like I'm not impressing
Mm.
anybody. I'm trying to know who's my group. I don't
Mm.
know who I am, let alone who all these other people are. And I feel like there's more shifts between the generations in terms of why that matters. So when we talk about maybe not your audience, but we have silent generation and boomer and Gen X and
Yeah.
millennial and Gen Z and Gen Alpha. What is different between them isn't just how old they are. It's
Mm.
also about the way they interact with communication from people they don't know, how
Mm.
trust is formed, how brands are aligned, where money is spent. And there are large wealth transfers happening right now. So a lot of young people are coming into financial security with, basically all the tools in the toolbox. Like I call it, it's like toddlers playing with fire. That's what we're doing right now with AI. All of us.
That's amazing,
And
though.
and you know what I mean? And so you just got to be careful, but you can be also it's also human to be like, "Whoa, this is cool." Like it's okay.
Super exciting. Yes, yes. I know
And
I'm
so
super
marketing is going to
excited.
be like that. You're going to
Yeah.
see the trendsetters. I see a lot more coming off the page, for lack of a better way to put it, meaning
Mm.
integrated experiences, whether they be
Mm.
AR, VR, or in real physical environments, and that
Yeah.
interconnected play but globally, it's funny because you told me about your different markets. We have different countries at different, let's just say, levels of where they are with that. I'll just be politically correct for right now. I was about to say the same thing and that. So, there's certain government initiatives in
Mm.
certain countries, right, that are
Yeah.
restricting information access. So marketing is more restricted, and the data that you can use to do predictive analytics and or signaling around hotspots like geo-targeted messaging and that kind of stuff. At first, again, it was
Mm.
shiny new toy and like, oh, I want to talk to this doctor right at the moment when he gets to the hospital. You could do that. But
Mm.
now there's certain efforts to not. So there's like things you can do, but that doesn't mean you should. Or there's things you can do that again help on the short term. I know I sound like I'm being really cautious. It's just because,
That's
I
important.
think, I think what people really feel like they're chasing. I have this feeling like I went to a couple, there's an organization by a man named Andrew Young. He was at ex Google and he calls it the owner operator forum. And he meets up in lots of places around the world, but obviously I'm by New York City, and was able to meet all of these incredible young founders, right? And all of them are like, I almost can feel like they're just like, I have to be the best. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. And I get it. But I also feel, I look back, I'm like, I wish you could just believe that you're doing your best right now. And I know
Yeah.
that's not like, this is the touchy feelies. I'm sorry. But this is where I feel like we're missing. I don't think we're missing any tools or any formulas. Anything you want to do, you can ask for a best in practice model for
Mm.
free or maybe what 20, 40 Claude, pick your LLM of choice, right?
Yeah.
You can make whole companies and revenue with one person and a couple LLMs that you couldn't years ago. So it's not a matter of what's the best way to do it. It's about who am I on my way doing it? That's what I think. So that
Love
you
that.
exist outside of whatever this thing is that you're doing.
Love that.
That's
Love
my
that take,
advice.
Natanya. I think that's amazing. Yeah, that's a lovely way to end the podcast on that note because I feel like yes, every third post on LinkedIn looks the same. Everyone's having the same tools, so it seems very similar. But I think originality is what's going to stand out and differentiate you from the rest. So thank you once again, Natanya, for coming on. It was lovely having you. I hope you
Thank
enjoyed the
you.
podcast as well.
Of
Yes.
course, it was one. I hope it's useful. I hope they're not like, why is that lady talking about feelings in AI? But it's it's I think it's important because I noticed that's what's missing.
Yeah. Yes. I think we need to get back into our feelings. So, Natanya, if anybody wants to work with you or wants to reach out to you, how should they connect with you?
LinkedIn.
Perfect.
LinkedIn's the
So, I'll
best
put
place.
down, yeah, I'll put your LinkedIn profile link in the description of the video so anyone can just DM you and send you a request. So, thank you, Natanya. It was great having you
Thank you
on.
so much for inviting me. Have a wonderful evening.